Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me to the International Seminar on Counterterrorism, De-radicalization, and Human Rights Protection, held by China Society for Human Rights Studies, to be held at 13th of October, 2021. Please introduce myself. My name is Abdullah WIbisono from University of Indonesia. The application of human rights in counterterrorism everywhere is always a dilemma. Effective counterterrorism often does not fulfill human rights. Counterterrorism that fulfills human rights is often ineffective in defeating terrorists. However, governments conducting counterterrorism must realize that the fulfillment of human rights is a strategic component of counterterrorism. The failure to fulfill human rights, when coupled with the government's inability to control the landscape of the battle where counterterrorism is conducted, can result in the perpetuation of terrorist organization. On the other hand, the fulfillment of human rights, which is not accompanied by a long-term plan for hegemonic management of politics, security, and welfare, can result in strengthening the spirit of subversion and sacrificing the territorial integrity of the state. Human rights in counterterrorism is applied on two general fronts. One, the use of force, and two, the use of legal measures. Within the confines of the use of force, counterterrorism forces must hold the legitimacy of the citizens in conducting counterterrorism. This legitimacy is gained from a justified use of force, meaning that force is used with a reasoning that it will gain success at stopping the terrorist perpetrators and bringing back peace. Secondly, the use of force is proportional and discriminatory. It is not applied in excessive terms, and serious effort is endeavored to differentiate terrorists from innocent civilians. This is consistent with the legitimacy account of counterterrorism, as it avoids counterterrorism from sowing the seeds of radicalization among innocent civilians who inadvertently victimized as collateral damages. The use of force, including the use of drone strikes that has become increasingly popular to take out terrorist individuals, will lose its utilitarian value in achieving success if it hurts civilians directly or indirectly, and as a consequence, increases their militancy. The second front in which how human rights is applied is legal measures, namely the creation of anti-terrorist legislation and or derogation from existing legal commitments. The creation of anti-terrorist legislation frequently follows specific terrorist attacks, and they are often argued for on the grounds of necessity. Domestic lawmaking processes tend not to go particularly well in times of crisis, because panic, fear, and populist impulses can conspire to create an atmosphere where the imperative turns towards combating a risk, and where the risk is presented and or conceived as being particularly grave or dangerous. The experiences of the application of human rights in anti-terrorism laws in democratic states particularly, have shown signs of exceptionality and creation of suspect communities. Anti-terrorism laws have given the police and the security services wide-ranging powers of arrest and detention, including the detention of persons suspected of terrorism for up to 14 days to some cases. In the UK and the US, anti-terrorism laws have created a suspect community because the law is designed to target particular identities in the community as potential perpetrators of terrorism. This tendency has been alleviated to some extent by the gradual substitution of counterterrorism with the policy of preventing and countering violent extremism, where people who are resilient to the influence of radicalization are strengthened and multiplied. China has also conducted something similar to the preventing and countering violent extremism by providing skills, upgrading, and de-radicalization of the people of Xinjiang province, so they are capable of resisting radical forces independently. Moreover, the fulfilling of human rights must be directed towards encouraging disengagement for terrorism. This means that fulfilling the due diligence and humanitarian principle in the due process of the law towards suspected terrorists must not be an end in itself. This act of fulfilling human rights must be communicated to the world with the expectation that more terrorist perpetrators disengage from their organizations. In addition, control over the flow of information is important to the degree that states can no longer ignore human rights. Terrorist groups has learned to utilize human insecurity as a part of their propaganda narratives to entice aspiring terrorists. On the one hand, the news that government authorities have conducted torture to terrorist suspects have been used to weaken the legitimacy of counterterrorism. On the other hand, terrorists have also learned to exploit the people's weaknesses into something that benefits them. Inability of individuals to access proper education and economic opportunity, for example, can be labeled by a terrorist group as the injustice of the heathen government against Muslim community. And they provided economic benefits to the family whose members are active in radical networks. So in conclusion, states have a duty to protect their citizens as they go about their daily businesses, but in doing so, they need to consider the ethical and human rights consequences associated with their operations and policies. And they need to show to the world that they are not doing their work with impunity and that they are trying to bring back peace and stability, which will prosper for all the community. The counterterrorism must be in parallel with the principle that today's solution is not the seed of tomorrow's insoluble problems. Thank you very much.